Picture a place where the world feels young. The northeast shore of Kauai, Hawaii. This is the Garden Isle, the oldest inhabited island in the archipelago, a place carved by ancient volcanoes and softened by the relentless caress of the trade winds. Here, waterfalls cascade thousands of feet down emerald cliffs, vanishing into mist before they even hit the ground. The Pacific Ocean stretches out in an endless, hypnotic expanse of blue, a barrier that has kept this place isolated, pristine, and sacred for centuries. It is the definition of paradise, a refuge where tourists come to escape the noise, the pollution, and the anxiety of modern life. They come here to forget, but if you drive along the sleepy, two-lane Ko'olau road that snakes around the island's windward coast, the view suddenly changes. The ocean disappears. The lush jungle is cut off. In their place stands a wall. It is 6 feet tall, constructed from dark, locally sourced volcanic rock, and it seems to go on forever. It stretches for mile after mile, an imposing, man-made scar on the natural landscape. It blocks the breeze. It blocks the view. And most importantly, it blocks the prying eyes of the locals and the beachgoers. This wall wasn't built by the state. It wasn't built for a hotel. It creates a boundary that separates the public world from a private kingdom, sparking rumors that have traveled from this small island to every corner of the globe. Behind that wall, the atmosphere shifts from tropical relaxation to high-stakes security. If you were to peek through the heavy foliage, you wouldn't see landscapers trimming hedges. You would see patrols. Security guards, dressed in tactical gear, circle the perimeter on ATVs, monitoring sensors and cameras. They watch the fence line with the intensity of a border patrol. In the background, the rumble of heavy machinery is constant. Construction trucks move earth, burying secrets deep within the soil. Every worker who passes through these gates is bound by a strict non-disclosure agreement. They are forbidden from speaking to the press, to the locals, or even to each other about the full scope of what they are building. They are not building a resort. They are not building a theme park. They are constructing a fortress for one of the richest men in human history. The scale of the excavation is industrial. Cranes tower over the palm trees, excavators claw deep into the red volcanic earth, carving out voids large enough to swallow entire houses. This is the Ko'olau Ranch, a project so massive, so secretive, and so expensive, it defies the logic of residential real estate. It raises a terrifying question that hangs in the humid air: what do the masters of the universe know that we don't? Welcome to the age of the ultra-wealthy survivalist. The man behind the wall is Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Meta. For years, Zuckerberg has been quietly acquiring parcels of land on Kauai, piece by piece, spending over $170 million just for the dirt. He didn't just buy a vacation home, he bought a 1,400-acre sovereignty. Standing here, amidst the wild grass and sea breezes, he looks like any other billionaire enjoying the fruits of his labor. But Zuckerberg isn't just looking at the view. He is looking at the future. And judging by the blueprints of his compound, he sees a future that requires extreme measures. Above ground, the plans read like a fantasy novel. The compound includes 2 massive mansions spanning 57,000 square feet, filled with elevators, industrial kitchens, and conference rooms. But the whimsy lies in the forest. Nestled in the canopy of massive banyan trees is a network of 11 disc-shaped treehouses. These aren't children's playthings. They are complex architectural feats, connected by intricate rope bridges that allow guests to traverse the jungle without ever touching the ground. It is a floating village, a UOC village, for the Silicon Valley elite. It speaks of a desire to return to nature, to live in harmony with the wild, but the harmony ends where the ground begins. The true nature of the Ko'olau Ranch is subterranean. Connecting the 2 main mansions is a massive tunnel. This is not a service corridor. It is a lifeline. The tunnel leads to a 5,000 square foot underground shelter. We are talking about a space larger than most American homes, buried beneath feet of concrete and soil. It contains living quarters, a mechanical room for life support systems, and an escape hatch accessible via a ladder. It is a dark, sleek artery designed to move people from the luxury of the surface to the safety of the depths in a matter of seconds. The most chilling detail in the planning documents is the door. It is described as being made of metal and filled with concrete, a technique used in military bunkers to absorb radiation and the kinetic energy of an explosion. This is a blast door. You do not install a door like this to keep out burglars. You install it to keep out shockwaves. You install it to seal yourself off from a world that has caught fire. It transforms the residence from a home into a vault. Behind this door, the air is filtered, the world is muted, and survival becomes the only objective. But a bunker is a tomb if you don't have resources. Zuckerberg's compound is engineered for total self-sufficiency. The plans include a massive water tank, 55 feet in diameter and 18 feet tall, coupled with a pump system that ensures the compound can operate independently of the municipal water supply. On the surface, extensive ranching and farming operations are already underway. Zuckerberg is raising Wagyu cattle, feeding them macadamia nuts grown on the property and beer brewed on site. It sounds like an eccentric hobby, but in the context of a doomsday shelter, it looks like a closed-loop food system. If the ships stop coming to Hawaii, if the supply chains break, the king of the ranch will still eat. 4,000 miles away, on the Atlantic coast, another tech titan is fortifying his position. This is Indian Creek Island in Miami, Florida. From above, it looks like a jewel floating in Biscayne Bay. But locals know it by a different name, the Billionaire Bunker. This is not a nickname given lightly. It is a municipality unto itself, accessible only by a single, heavily guarded bridge. It is one of the wealthiest and most secure zip codes in the United States, a floating fortress where the ultra-rich live in a bubble of exclusivity. Security here is not passive, it is aggressive. The island maintains its own private police force, a dedicated unit that exists solely to protect the 30-something residents. But the perimeter is also guarded by water. An armed marine patrol circles the island 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Their sleek, gunmetal gray boats cut through the waves, ensuring that no paparazzi, no curious tourists, and no potential threats can approach the shoreline. It is a moat for the modern age, enforcing a level of isolation that medieval kings would envy. Enter Jeff Bezos. The founder of Amazon recently announced a move from Seattle to Miami, and he didn't just buy a house, he bought an ecosystem. First, he purchased a mansion for $68 million. Months later, he bought the neighbor's house for $79 million. Then, another for $90 million. He is spending nearly $250 million to carve out a massive, contiguous fiefdom on this fortress island. While Zuckerberg digs down into the earth, Bezos is betting on the moat. He is consolidating land, creating a buffer zone of wealth and armed security. It is a different strategy, but the goal is the same, absolute control over one's environment, and then, there is the ultimate escape hatch, New Zealand. For the billionaires of Silicon Valley, this remote island nation at the bottom of the world is the holy grail of survivalism. It is politically stable, geographically isolated, and rich in fresh water and fertile land. It is far removed from the nuclear targets of the Northern Hemisphere, a lifeboat positioned at the edge of the map. If the world burns, the theory goes, New Zealand will be the last place to catch fire. Peter Thiel, the co-founder of PayPal and Palantir, a man known for his contrarian views and deep connections to the intelligence community, was one of the first to secure his spot here. Thiel famously acquired New Zealand citizenship in an expedited process, despite having spent only a handful of days in the country. He then purchased a 477-acre former sheep station on the shores of Lake Wanaka. Standing in the tall grass of the South Island, Thiel saw not just a landscape, but a backup country. A plan B for when the experiment of Western democracy fails. Thiel planned to build a massive lodge, a structure designed to blend seamlessly into the hillside, effectively invisible from a distance. It was to be a sanctuary for the end of days. But even billionaires cannot buy everything. Thiel ran into a force he couldn't manipulate, the local community. Environmental groups and the local council fiercely opposed his plans, arguing that the structure would ruin the outstanding natural beauty of the landscape. For now, the bunker is on hold, rejected by the very people he hoped to live amongst. It was a stark reminder that you cannot simply buy a community, you have to be part of one, that the preparations extend beyond real estate. Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI and the face of the artificial intelligence revolution, has been surprisingly candid about his own survivalist tendencies. In interviews, he has admitted to stockpiling the essentials for a societal collapse. Sitting in his living room, one might find a collection that looks paranoid to the average person: gold bars for trade when currency fails, potassium iodide for radiation poisoning, antibiotics, batteries, and gas masks from the Israeli Defense Force. He has a patch of land in Big Sur, California, that he can fly to at a moment's notice, but what are they afraid of? In these circles, they call it the event. It is a catch-all term for the moment the delicate machinery of civilization grinds to a halt. It could be a cyberattack that takes down the power grid, plunging cities into darkness. It could be a synthetic virus, a nuclear exchange, or an AI gone rogue. The specific cause doesn't matter as much as the result, the collapse of the rule of law. These men, who have built their fortunes on the intricate connectivity of the modern world, are secretly betting on its fragility. This anxiety was laid bare to media theorist Douglas Rushkoff. He tells a chilling story of being invited to a private luxury resort to give a keynote speech to 5 ultra-wealthy investors. He expected questions about the stock market or the future of tech. Instead, in the dimly lit boardroom, the conversation turned dark. They didn't want to know how to save the world, they wanted to know how to survive it. They asked him which region would be safer, Alaska or New Zealand. They asked if Google was building a shelter for its employees, but the question that haunted Rushkoff the most was about control. One billionaire asked, "How do I maintain authority over my security force after the event?" This is the billionaire's paradox. You can buy the bunker, but you cannot run it alone. You need guards. You need engineers. But in a world where money is worthless, why would armed guards protect a soft billionaire? Why wouldn't they just take the food for themselves? The solutions they brainstormed were terrifying. They discussed disciplinary collars that could deliver electric shocks to disobedient staff. They talked about securing the food supply with special combination locks that only the master knew. They discussed using robotic security instead of humans. They were effectively designing a prison where they would be the wardens, but also the inmates. It reveals a mindset that views the future not as a collective challenge to be solved, but as a zero-sum game to be won. It is a philosophy of extreme isolation, where trust is replaced by technology, and community is replaced by biometrics. This paranoia has birthed a booming industry. Companies like VivoS and RisingS are catering specifically to this high-end clientele. Take the VivoS Europa 1 shelter in Rothenstein, Germany. Carved into a solid rock mountain, this facility was originally a Soviet-era storage depot for military equipment. It was built to withstand a near-direct nuclear hit. Now, it has been acquired. Inside, the aesthetic is far from Spartan. These companies are selling underground superyachts. The VivoS complex features swimming pools, movie theaters, gyms, and bars. The living quarters can be customized with marble floors, leather furniture, and high-end art. The pitch is simple: the apocalypse doesn't have to be uncomfortable. You can ride out the end of the world in 5-star luxury, sipping vintage wine while the surface burns. To combat the psychological strain of living underground, designers have created virtual windows. These high-resolution screens act as windows, playing live 4K feeds of a forest, a city, or a tropical beach. You can wake up to a sunrise that isn't happening. It is a digital illusion designed to keep the madness at bay, a simulation of the world that was lost. The price for these suites starts in the millions and climbs steeply, ensuring that only a select few will ever see them. But back in the real world, this trend has consequences. In Kauai, the contrast is heartbreaking. On one side of the road, you have the pristine, gated driveways of the billionaire class, monitored by state-of-the-art cameras. On the other side, you have the weathered homes of locals, roofs rusting in the salt air, struggling to hold on to their ancestral land. The influx of ultra-wealth triggers gentrification on steroids. Property taxes rise, the cost of living skyrockets, and the very people who nurture the island's culture are pushed out. For native Hawaiians, the land, or Aina, is sacred. It is a family member. Seeing vast tracts of it bought up by a mainlander, walled off, and turned into a doomsday fortress strikes a deep, historical nerve. There have been legal battles over kuleana lands, small parcels within the ranch boundaries owned by local families for generations. Through contentious court processes, many of these titles have been quieted, the land absorbed into the billionaire's estate. It reinforces a feeling that the ultra-rich play by ear. The irony is palpable. The billionaires are prepping for the collapse of civilization, yet their very presence contributes to the economic inequality that destabilizes society. Locals in Kauai pay some of the highest prices for groceries in the nation. While Zuckerberg ships in specialized equipment for his bunker, neighbors struggle to buy milk. The more the wealthy isolate themselves, the more they disconnect from the shared reality of the community. They are preparing for a world without people, while ignoring the people right outside their gates. This isn't the first time the elite have tried to escape history. The Roman aristocracy retreated to their hillside villas as the empire crumbled. The French nobility threw lavish parties at Versailles while Paris starved. Isolation has never been a successful long-term survival strategy. History has a way of climbing the walls. The belief that with enough money, you can buy your way out of the human condition is a fantasy. Let's imagine the worst-case scenario. The bombs fall. The grid fails. Mark Zuckerberg retreats to his 5,000-square-foot shelter. The blast door seals shut with a heavy, final thud. He is safe. He has his water. He has his macadamia nuts. But consider the reality of that existence. He is bathed in the artificial blue glow of server lights, cut off from the sun, the wind, and the ocean. The internet, the very thing he built his empire on, is dead. There are no more likes. No more shares. No more influence that he becomes the king of a kingdom of one. He sits in a control room staring at screens that show nothing but static. He is the master of a dead world. Is that winning? Or is it the ultimate defeat? To survive at the cost of everything that makes life worth living, connection, community, nature, is a hollow victory. The bunker is not a life raft, it is a coffin with Wi-Fi. The billionaire bunker trend is a warning. It tells us that the people with the most resources are betting against our collective future. But we don't have to make that same bet. The sun still sets over Kauai. The waves still crash against the shore. And on the beaches, ordinary people still gather around bonfires, sharing food, stories, and laughter. They survive not by building walls, but by building bridges. We cannot afford to give up on the world above ground. We have to fix the ship, because there aren't enough lifeboats for everyone. And when the lights go out, the only thing that will truly save us is each other. That is the choice. And right now, the richest people on earth have made theirs. What will be yours?